Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Ladies Lunch and Learn. Today's class is dedicated to Eli Nishmat Rachel Bat Hana Alav Shalom by her granddaughter Leah Ini. May her neshama have an aliyah. You know, Leah Ini is a distinguished member of our community, and everything that she does it with a smile. The whole purpose of these classes is to take control back away from the world around us, because so much of our external world impacts us so negatively. And if we are not proactively working on bringing in happiness into our lives, we are going to suffer with a lot of unhappiness. There's a great quote it goes like this. It says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you determine the mindset of your reality. So just before we go, this is going to be a little bit of a science-heavy class, so I apologize in advance. But it's important because I want to back up everything that we're saying here today. The perception, I've been thinking a lot about this. Perception, philosophically, has been debated as to where perception actually takes place. There's the subject and there's the object. Right? I am looking at the phone in front of me. That's the object. I'm the subject. Is the object, my phone, okay, is it my ability to capture the light that's bouncing off my phone into my eyes that's allowing me to see the object? Or does the subject illuminate the object? Is it coming from me, the observer, looking at the object, and because my eyes have the ability of capturing the light's coming from within me, and therefore putting my gaze at this thing, and that's why I'm able to perceive it. So from a complete scientific place, everyone would say obviously it's the object, right? The object is bouncing off light, and therefore it's measurable. But this is where it's a little confusing. When you're looking at something and someone, where is that observation actually taking place? It's happening in your mind, happening in your brain, right? It's not happening in the physical world. It's happening in the gray matter in between your ears, right? It's happening in a very different place. Okay, so well then, how are we measuring how we're perceiving things? In the outside world, it's true that things are very much measurable, and therefore I can measure the light and so on and so forth. But my whole of reality is taking place inside of my mind, and therefore the Mikubalim actually say that no. You think that what you perceive is happening from a physical place on the outside, but in reality, know that everything is taking place truly on the inside and not on the outside. Do you ever have that weird feeling that someone across the room is staring at you? I guess you have. Okay, so where does that come from? How does someone know? Where does that come? What? It's something there. Something there. There's something about me focusing my attention on someone, that causes this weird, uncomfortable awareness. And therefore, I'm driven to turn around and say, hey, like, why is that person giving me the eyes? Where is that coming from? Okay? So I just want to reiterate this idea that the world around you is way more complicated than you can possibly begin to imagine. Did you know that when you walk into a room, the walls bend towards you ever so slightly? It's actually measurable because you change the space of gravity when you walk into a room. And every time you walk in and out of a room, the walls are actually bending towards you a little bit, but you don't really think about it in those days. So you impact your environment by just walking into it. Imagine how you impact your environment with your thoughts and your words. And today we're going to be speaking about words. Words matter. There was a great article written in the Psychology of Science, and they had this awesome little piece that I want to share with you before we jump into my sheet. And it's talking about the power of words and how words impact our own reality, okay? And I want you to hear this piece over here, and I want you to kind of like close your eyes for a brief moment, okay? And I want you to just hear the words I'm about to say. So close your eyes, okay? Tell me how you feel after hearing this. You are doing a great job, progressing really well. Look at how much learning and how you're growing. Look at how much of a difference you're making and how much of a positive impact you had on so many people's lives already. You are such a courageous and loving being. I deeply appreciate you. Open your eyes. How does that make you feel? It's awesome, right? It's great, fantastic, okay, amazing. Now I want you to close your eyes one more time, okay? No, I want it to go this way first. You always start with the positive first. Okay, you don't have to close your eyes to this one. You know what I'm going to say next, right? You're not important. You don't have what it takes. You're not putting in enough effort. You're never going to make it. There's not enough good to go around. The world is a dangerous place. How does that make you feel? Horrible, terrible, right? So why is it that words somehow the words are always associated with some kind of an emotion, by the way, right? It's not just a word is a word. Words trigger emotions. And therefore, when you and I use positive words, we trigger positive feelings and emotions. You can't accomplish anything in life if you're starting from a negative place. It doesn't work. You want to motivate someone to do something. It's not going to work when you're starting from a negative place. You're always so late. You know what my favorite is? I get this from the young girls all the time. Rabbi, there are no good guys out there. No, it's not true. It's not true. Chas v'shalom. That type of thinking manifests your reality. If you keep thinking that there are no good guys out there, guess what? You're never going to find the good guys. You have to continuously work on that relationship with the self. I give a class on Monday nights. We're doing Kivud Av V'Em. We're doing the laws of honoring your parents. Now, honoring our parents is a very difficult thing, right? Which is why it's the fifth of the 10 Commandments. It's important, right? But if you're not proactively working on that relationship, then all you're doing is leaning on the history of that relationship. How many relationships do you have with just friends, old friends? Are you working on that relationship? No. Why should I work on that relationship? A relationship is a relationship. The answer is no, that's a mistake. All relationships require effort. They require drive. They require focus. They require an aim. You have to be working towards moving that relationship. If it just stays stagnant, you know what's going to end up happening? Time will do its thing and it will destroy it, like all things. And if you are not putting in the effort into something, that means it's not meaningful to you. Meaning, okay, only comes from effort. The more you work on something, the more meaningful it is. I have my mom, who I love very dearly, and I have to work on that relationship. How is it that sometimes mothers, okay, family members are able to choose one or two words that trigger us so deeply? Right? Where does that come from? Right? So if you're a mother, right, and you have kids, just be mindful that the words that you use have an impact, positive or negative. Even if you don't have I am so careful. I've got married kids. When I have to, because every parent sees things they want to say, right? And there's a tremendous amount of wisdom in keeping silent, okay? And there's no greater level of wisdom than silence. Greatest expression of wisdom. Sometimes, so then there's a science on how to say what you really feel, because if you hold things in for too long, you know what's going to happen? You become Majnun, you become crazy. So how do you say something to a child that's sensitive? So it's, first of all, never say it the day you feel it. You never, ever, ever express an emotion unless it's super positive. Negative emotions, you wait minimum 48 hours to a week before you say it. Okay, minimum 48 hours to a week before you say it. And then when you're going to say it, make sure it's the right time. They're alone, no one's around, it's everyone's comfortable, it's not raining outside, the sun is shining. Find that right moment. They're in a good mood. They just had a meal, they're feeling good, they're full, whatever it is, you don't never have the conversation when people are hungry, right? Then when it's finally there, you first always start with positive things. Oh, I love you so much, I miss you, it's so great to have you, and blah, 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 and you start laying it in. Would you be comfortable if I shared something that I saw that I want to say it, but I'm afraid I might be overstepping my boundaries? Do you want to hear that? Right? Okay, and when you say that, like, who doesn't want to hear what you have to say? Of course I want to hear what you have to say. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I just want to say this, and you say it in the softest, most gentle way and create any kind of excuse that you could possibly say it, and I guarantee you, they'll hear it and they'll love you and appreciate you for it. But when you say it from a place of frustration, anger, and emotion, automatically you lost. Over. It's over. Any relationship that is meaningful requires effort on your part. Your words have an impact on your environment in more ways than you could begin to imagine. Okay? From a psychological place, positive words impact, they activate positive emotions. Positive emotions allow you to go ahead and be productive. Negative emotions are destructive. Negative emotions allow you to become unproductive. They destroy the world. And so therefore, the introduction for today is all about how are you working on thinking about the words that you're using. We often use negative words like it's never going to happen. It's not. Why do bad things always happen to me? You have to start changing the words that you're using. Catch yourself. Find yourself a chavruta, a partner that you're going to work with and say, you know what? I want to work on positive awareness. I want to use affirming words that are positive, and I'm going to start with myself. Every single day, I want you to spend, 9 seconds a day and saying, you know what? I'm good. I'm capable. I have the tools that I have. I'm so appreciable of the things that I have, and today's going to be a great day. You can change your emotions by choosing to be in a happy space. That's on you. The negative feelings that you often have is really your fault. Don't blame anyone else. No one around you should be able to penetrate the most important parts of who you are. Because if someone else could get into you and turn you into a negative thing, you've lost. It's over. So how does it work? Okay, so the Gemara says as follows. First source in sheet number 1. It says as follows. Gemara in Shabbat says that the world exists in the merit of the words uttered by little children studying Torah. The words uttered means that every one of their words sustain the world. This teaches us that the existence of the entire world rests upon the power of speech. God created the world with 10 utterances. 10 utterances created a universe. Words matter. Words shape reality. And therefore the words that were used, that were spoken in the beginning of time, it's the same words that were spoken then that you and I use today that maintain our reality. I'm going to become political for a moment. I apologize. This is typically not a political class, and I don't like to speak about politics. But what's happening in the Middle East today, in so many of those countries, right? It's mamash sheker, it's lies, right? Lies, falsehoods. Remember about 7 months ago when the whole thing was Shifa Hospital, that they blamed Israel, and then the next day there were blood libels across Europe, and just words, small little words, okay, matter. Okay, words matter. What happened in the presidential debate a couple of nights ago, right? Okay, both of them spoke up a lot of lies. Okay, but the greatest lie is the lie that was told for the last few weeks that President Biden is sharp as a nail, right? It's gaslighting, right? The idea that you have people that are continuously lying to you on every side. By the way, I'm not saying anyone is better. They're all lying. Everyone's lying. Politics, just lie. Just lie as much as you can. And if you lie long enough, people will believe it. The Jews don't have any real space in the land of Israel. They have no claim to the land of Israel. They were never there. It was always Islamic, right? This is the argument. The Palestinians were there first. This is not true. It's not true. These are lies. But if you say a lie long enough, guess what happens? That becomes your reality. You have crazy kids today protesting out in the streets in support of Hamas. You have the Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran offering students that were expelled from university a free scholarship in Shiraz University. Right? I say go. I'm happy to sponsor your plane ticket, one-way flights. But how about go? Go there and stay there and don't come back. But when you live in a reality, in a society where words do not matter, everything begins to fall apart. And what's happening right now in the world that you and I are living in is we are living in a very dangerous time because words don't matter anymore. There's no integrity to words. You can say whatever you want. You say whatever you want to get your agenda through. That's the way the world is today. And it's a very dangerous time. As a matter of fact, the Navi says, one of the simanim, one of the signs that we are living during the times of the Mashiach is that truth will be lost. I remember reading this 20 years ago. Truth is lost. How do you lose truth? Truth is truth. How do you lose truth? But when you live in a world which is continuously lying, and now you have misinformation and fake news and all kinds of things going on at the same time. No, I don't know what truth is. I don't know what truth is. I don't know what truisms are anymore. A woman could be a man could be a woman, a man could be a young girl. All kinds of things are happening today that are absolutely insane. Why? Because words don't matter anymore. When you take words away, when we start changing the definition of what words mean, all of reality begins to crumble and fall. That's the mitziyut. A person's thoughts function in two different ways. Number one, thoughts through the power of imagination, which is based on images formulated in our minds. Whenever if you think about it, when you think of things in your head, it's all words that are forcing the imagination. If you're a student of artificial intelligence, you know that today AI is based on large language models, LLMs, right? It's language that is being used to solve intelligence today. And that's not what we thought before. We just thought it was processing power. But today you have a race to get to AGI, right? Artificial general intelligence, which is the intelligence of a human mind that could do anything and everything. And I suspect that the whole entire world will change. Regardless of how you feel about Elon Musk's big debate, if you were following the news a couple of weeks ago, there's a company called OpenAI. OpenAI is the company that made the big breakthrough in artificial intelligence, okay? And when he originally gave his money to that company, right, it was a not-for-profit company that was open-sourced, that wasn't trying to make any money. And the whole idea was to try to keep artificial intelligence as true and honest as possible. So, for example, at the same time when OpenAI released their software, Google released their software. And so, these things could generate images. All you have to do is type in a few words, say, show me a picture of George Washington on his white horse, right? And when the Google image generator did this, it was a picture of a general, right, from the 1700s, on a white horse, but the general himself was black. Right? So how does a artificial intelligence get something so right and so wrong? And therefore, what we find now is that the people that are building these artificial intelligence have built-in biases into the actual software. So the words that you use, merosh, matter. They matter. Keep going. Look at number 3. What does Hashem say? When God creates man, he says, and the Lord God formed man out of dust from the ground. He breathed into his nostrils the soul of life, and man became a living soul. V'hi ha'adam lenefesh chaya. Those are the Hebrew words at the end. Unclis, number 4, is a 2,000-year-old convert. He was actually Roman. He converted to Judaism, and he wrote one of the most important translations of the Torah into Aramaic. Okay, and often his words are not just an expression of a translation, but often an expression of a deeper truth in the actual words themselves. And this is what he says. He says, when God formed the man, dust from the ground, he blew into his nostrils the breath of life, and so man became a living, speaking spirit.
What was his name?
Unclis? Okay. So when the verse above says that God made man into a nefesh chaya, into a living soul, what does a living soul actually mean? To have the power of speech. What makes us alive and different from every other thing on this planet is our ability to communicate. How we communicate, right, very much is an expression of our nefesh chaya, our higher living, speaking soul. Rashi, okay, 10th century commentator from France, he says, nefesh chaya, a living soul, also cattle and beasts have a nefesh chaya. But the nefesh of a man is the most highly developed of all of them, because to him was granted understanding and speech. It's not just speech, but comprehension and speech together is what makes us into a nefesh chaya. But everyone agrees this one thing, that in order to be called a human being, speech has to be present and pronounced. There are actually large language models right now that are working on decoding the speech of animals, right? And they're actually training them, and they're actually discovering that there's some communication from animals, but most of these things are like habitual, they're not like conscious thought. These are just habits they have. Okay, fine. You have Noam Chomsky. Okay, my most, I love to hate this guy, but Chomsky is complicated, specifically because of his views in Israel. And he says as follows. He says, the ability to speak is embedded in our genes and derived from the brain. Okay, a person's ability to expand his vocabulary is likewise rooted in the brain and is distinctly a human trait. Only human beings have the power of building off of speech. Children that are beginning to learn how to speak. I have my granddaughter who's almost 5 months now, and she's starting the cooing phase right now. And so, when we talk to her, she gets super excited, and she's at that point where she's trying to say something, right? She's trying to get that letter out, and she's breathing really heavy, like she's trying to say it, but she's not there yet. So her brain is turned on, but she doesn't have the muscular skills to go ahead and get there. Number 7, what is the difference between speech and action? Why is it that people ascribe more importance to action than to words? And they ascribe even less importance to words that they repeat constantly without thinking, right? This is what he says. The reason is that actions tend to have an immediate effect on one's environment, while it usually takes longer for speech to have an effect. This is not true, because you and I today are living in a world where we see how speech actually has an impact on the environment. We're becoming more and more aware of the fact how words actually do matter. And therefore, the reason why we think actions speak louder than words is because we live in a time where words don't carry much weight. How do we make words matter? I see this often with young parents. Don't touch that. That's part of it, but consequences. Words matter. Parents tell a child not to do something, and if you do this, I'm going to do X. And the child does it, and there's zero consequence. What are we training children? Words don't matter. Starts right away, at a very, very early age. The words that we use with children will define their reality. I see so many parents who would much rather pacify a child. There's 2 years ago, I was walked into a restaurant, a kosher restaurant, for breakfast. It was early in the morning. It wasn't so early, it was like around 10 o'clock. I saw this cute family sitting at the table waiting to be served. And all 4 of them, right? Mother, father, son, and daughter. The son was probably 8 years old, the other daughter probably 5, all of them on screens at a breakfast table. Screens on their phones. Tablets, screens, there's no communication, it was quiet, no talking to one another. It's a horror show. It's a horror show, right? It's a pacifier. I don't want to deal with you. Take this thing and sit in the corner. Don't talk to me. Why? Because parents don't want to deal with raising the child. I don't want to sit there and speak and give chinuch and give the ability to go ahead and really discipline the child. I don't want to think about it. And in that world, all we're doing is we're creating a world where a child believes, that they're free to do whatever they want to do. Think whatever they want to think, say there's no truth anymore, it's only subjective truths. It's my truth is the truth. There's no objective truths anymore. And when objective truth is lost, words don't matter. Okay, number 8 we spoke about last week, but look at number 9 for a second. That's the water crystal experiment. Remember Dr. Masaru Emoto, right? So he's right there. This is the actual study. We spoke about it last week, but look at number 9. There's another guy, Dr. Emoto, right? This guy named Tomer Raviv. He's a student at Bar Ilan University in Israel. And he conducted a series of similar experiments where he took 3 plates containing dried beans resting on a layer of cotton. He moistened them every few days with tap water. While watering the first plate, Ravis did nothing. While watering the second plate, he cursed and swore. While watering the third plate, he recited Tehillim and praises of Hashem. After 2 weeks, there were noticeable differences between the contents of the plates. The first plate, the beans sprouted and grew normally. The second plate, they did not grow. And the third plate, they grew much taller than normal. Okay, same idea. This is the rice test I spoke to you about also. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like I didn't have the sources.
Yeah.
And I was being questioned, how is that even possible? I said, it's not from me, it's from science.
Yeah. So here it is. Now you have it. You could show it.
I'm going to be following up.
Okay, good. So yeah, they talk about speaking to your environment, speaking to the people around you, it impacts. I don't know about it. I'm not sure about speed. This is why, by the way, if you think about it, before we eat anything, what do? We make a baracha. We make a blessing. And when I'm holding the water in my hands and I'm saying shahakol niya bidvaro, I am infusing everything in this cup with everything positive, and I'm ingesting it. It's not just for the sake of praise, God does not need to hear that He's great. If an ant jumped onto the table and said, "Oh, you look beautiful today," are you going to take it seriously? I hope not, right? But the reason why you and I make blessings, the whole idea of prayer in general, is for me. I need to be reminded of the fact that there is something positive in the world, and I need to find the humility to be appreciative of things that I have. I need that reminder. God doesn't need it. Baruch atah Hashem. He needs to hear that you're blessing. You're not blessing Him. The fact that you could pause for a moment and think deeply and be mindful of the fact that you're just appreciative of this little cup of tea over here. Thank you so much. Right? Is the most powerful expression of humility that gives me the space to let all of you into my lives. That's that. Anyway, all right. So there's that. Chazon Ish, number 10, says one of the mysteries of creation is that a person's thoughts can trigger unknown forces in the physical world. You think positive, what ends up happening is you're drawing positive things to you. You're in a negative state, guess what happens? You're going to draw negative people to you.
Is there a parak or a pasuk or a place where the Chazon Ish has a pasuk like this?
This is from the Chazon Ish's works. He wrote a series of Sheilot v'Tshuvot. Okay, it's called a shoot, and in it, I'll take it. Just give me a minute. In it, he says he has this very curious statement. Most of his responses are very long. Most of the things he wrote are very long, comprehensive answers to the questions that he got. They're questions and answers. The question that was submitted was from a Holocaust survivor. I know this is not going to be easy for any of you to hear because it's not easy for me to hear, but after thinking about it for many years, I appreciate it. He said someone sent him a letter, a Holocaust survivor, saying how he was suffering from depression. Not like higher level, but grief, more grief than depression. So he responded back, the Chazon Ish, with like one line, like a one sentence, saying that sadness does not exist in this world. All right, and I think what he meant, of course there's sadness. We grieve, we have mourning, Kaddish, and so on and so forth. But the idea of not being happy, right? Happiness is not about being in a joyful place. Real happiness is knowing that you're doing exactly what you're meant to be doing under the circumstances that you find yourselves in. True happiness is when your soul is aligned with your mission and you're actually living it. That's where simcha comes from, not the external trappings of the happiness we see in the world. And I think that's what it means over here. If you're constantly living in a space where you're working on being the best you that you can be, which means being in a positive space as well, you draw that positivity to you. Yes?
Well, what about everybody is davening very hard for the state of Israel and soldiers?
Yes.
And cumulatively, it doesn't sound like our prayers are making too much progress.
Why would you say that?
Well, everybody thinks the worst of Israel.
Right.
They lie.
Correct.
So that they...
Yeah. Oh, it makes absolutely no sense.
They don't verify that 10,000 Arab terrorists were killed because
Right.
it was only...
No. It was more than that. All of the people there, I would say, majority of the people there, unfortunately, are terrorists. Okay, they've been educated, they're brainwashed. I feel bad for them. It's an unfortunate situation, but listen, it's horrible. Think about it for a minute. You have in Jordan 5 million Arabs that want to kill Israel. West Bank, 2 million Arabs. Gaza, 2 million Arabs. Okay, you have 9 million Arabs right around the eastern and southern border of Israel. Then you have another, 50 million people in Lebanon. Who knows how many people in Syria? Who knows how many millions of people in Iran and Iraq? You're surrounded, right? You have in Egypt, you have 90 million people, 87 million people living there. 50% for sure want to kill the Jews as well. You have the Houthi rebels all the way in Yemen. Okay, you have all of North Africa. You have parts of Europe. You have a whole. It's impossible, right? This is horrible. Our prayers clearly are not working. So what should I do? I should give up. Imagine for a moment, okay, 1945. Okay, you have two guys in Auschwitz, and one guy somehow snuck a Tanakh in there. Right, a book of the Bible. And they're reading the passages where Ezekiel is talking about how the Jews are going to come back and reclaim their land. And they're going to build an army and a government and a country. Right? You're sitting there, you read this, what are you thinking? It's crazy stuff. This is all nonsense. Take this and throw it in the garbage. Why would I believe that? But if you only waited a few more years, you'd have a state of Israel. Built by whom? By broken people, Holocaust survivors, emaciated, sick people, built a country. You think that was their prayers were answered over there? And for what? To be now, 80 years later, into a situation which is way worse than it was 80 years ago? I believe wholeheartedly there's a plan. I believe that and it's all going to be good at the end. I don't understand it. I don't pretend to understand it. I believe that God is creating a reality where we have to let go of our fictitious claims onto these external things that are going to protect you. The only thing that saves us at the end of this is God. It's always been like that. The Jews that left Egypt, the ones that left, okay, they left because it made no sense. It was crazy. Where were we going to go? We were slaves. We were broken people, psychologically abused with anxiety and depression and all kinds of things. You were a complicated group of people. Intergenerational trauma, passed down from generation to generation till today. Okay? It was hard. But they left somehow. They found the courage to let go. And when they did, they let God. We need to create a space for ourselves where we're letting God in. This is about having hope. No one can take that away from me. I believe on paper, this makes absolutely no sense. It's crazy. But nothing about being Jewish makes sense. You and I should not be here having this conversation. The synagogue should not exist in Manhattan. But the fact that you and I are here on a Tuesday in 2024, in July, right, the first week of July, okay, reminds me that there is a loving God that has a plan. Because by derech hateva, through nature, we should not be having this conversation at all. There should be no Jews on the planet. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, to what extent
Yeah.
negative energy and even sadness leads to change and innovation?
You're saying that the mother of invention is necessity? Necessity is mother of invention?
Well, I mean, you could say it that way, but dissatisfaction.
It doesn't have to be, meaning it can't. I mean, remember that any trait can be used in a constructive way. Okay, any circumstance could be used in a constructive way even, but that's not what we want. Meaning, I could go ahead and going back to the mother-daughter, mother-child, relationship, I could wait for there to be an eruption with my mother to fix the relationship. I don't have to wait for that eruption to happen. Why aren't we proactively working on things? Why do I have to wait? Why do I have to create a space? Why am I cruising through life waiting for the accidents to happen to respond to them? Why aren't we always proactively working on making those things better? We're so lost in our society today doing all kinds of wasteful things. I'm not saying you shouldn't have fun. I'm not saying you shouldn't party. I'm not saying you shouldn't travel. I'm not saying have a great life. But create a space in your day every single day where you're proactively working on becoming something more. Don't let the relationships happen. Make them happen. Don't let life happen, make it happen. So I would say like this, yes, there's two types of innovation that happens. Innovation can definitely happen from I think in that way, I'm sorry if I'm twisting it a little bit. But I would say innovation can happen from a place of necessity, or it could happen from a place of proactively working on becoming something more, right? So that's on us. We could wait, like the United States waited until the very end of World War II to get involved, and that fear helped them create the Manhattan Project, which gave us the atom bomb, for better and for worse, right? But that whole process of building that atom bomb gave us nuclear energy. We wouldn't have energy today. We have energy deficits around the world today. Without that nuclear ability today, we'd be in big trouble. You wouldn't have all the luxuries that you enjoy today, the air conditioning. All that was possible because of what they created. Did we have to wait for those circumstances to build? The answer is no. That's the mistake. That's the constant mistake we make throughout history. That we wait for things to get so bad, it's only then we speak up. What's happening in this country? We've waited for too long. We saw the writing on the wall 20 years ago, what was happening in this country. And we just said, it's not our problem, it'll pass. It only got progressively worse. You have two presidential candidates today who are both, I'm sorry to say it, it's embarrassing. My son, 25 years old. So he's at an age where he's curious he watched the debate, and he was curious, this is what he did. He looked up the presidential debate from 1980, right? And he's like, wow, the vocabulary, the conversation, there was just being polite and just being, courteous and, letting the other person respond. It wasn't this oh, you're a liar and you're this and you're that. It was just gross. I felt dirty. I went to the mikveh afterwards. I was gross. It was gross. These are the leaders of our country. It's horrible, right? But if we don't work on ourselves, if we don't create a reality where we as a community are working on building up a deeper appreciation for words, they matter. You hear someone saying something negative, it should bother you. Hey, you could say the same exact thing in a positive way. You don't have to say it, don't think of it from a negative space. Change the vocabulary from negativity to positivity. Everything should be positive. Don't ever give up. Don't ever lose hope. Hopelessness equals death. You can't build a future with hopelessness. The only way to build a future is through hope. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, okay, they had every reason to give up hope. It was a crazy time 100 years ago also. It was a crazier time 200 years ago and 300 years ago and 400 years ago and 500 years ago. I go through all of history, all around the world, and show you how it was worse. Worse. Thank God we are where we are. I'm confident that it'll get better soon. Confident of it. Positive of it. We're going to get back our hostages. Okay? We're going to end this war very quickly. It's going to be over. Okay? We're going to build a great future together. But it only comes from us having the hope, the drive, that positive thinking that brings it. If we all let go into the negative thinking, it's over. Just end it. Just close up shop and walk away. Yeah.
But look, when you talk about children and parents,
Yeah.
when the children grow up, they realize that when they were younger, they didn't do things the right way.
Yeah.
I have a cousin who lives in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
and her parents were Holocaust survivors. After they died, she said to me, "Oh, I was such a bad daughter." I said, "And now I can't say I'm sorry to them."
You could always say you're sorry to
But
them.
I said to her, "Go to the grave
Yeah.
and tell them."
100%. Good. What's that? You could, yeah. Actually, there is a whole process in the Shulchan Aruch where if there's someone that you need to ask for mechila. I actually did it once. I was part of a minyan of people that went to a grave for someone who wanted to ask for mechila, and there's a whole entire process of how to do it at the gravesite. Yeah. But anyway, okay, fine. Next source. Okay, let's keep going. I want to finish this. We only have about 15 minutes. Okay. Pirkei Avot says, with 10 utterances, the world was created. We mentioned that already. Tzaddik decrees and the Kadosh Baruch Hu fulfills. That's a Gemara in Moed Katan. When the Tzaddik says something, we spoke about this Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Ishmael last week, that Rabbi Akiva's tefillot were answered because he was positive. Tzaddik says something, that becomes his reality. Gemara number 13. The true meaning of a dream depends on the mouth, how people interpret it. I'm a dream interpreter, right? So you want to go someone to interpret dreams who's going to give you a positive interpretation, because the dream always follows the interpreter's interpretation. And therefore, if you're going to hear someone that says something negative, it's going to impact you negatively. Always want to be around positive people. Yalkut Shimoni, Gemara, Midrash. A woman came before Rabbi Eliezer and said to him, I saw in my dream that the ceiling beam of my house broke. Rabbi Eliezer interpreted the dream saying that it was telling her, you will bear a son. Right? This is in fact what happened. Sometime later, the woman came against Rabbi Eliezer telling him that she had the same dream again. And he gave this dream the identical interpretation, that she would bear a son. After a while, she had the same dream a third time. And as usual, she went to the rabbi. But at that moment, he was not in the Beit Midrash. His disciple was said to her, tell us your dream, desires, we'll try to assist you. The woman asked, are you adept to interpreting dreams, as your master is? The disciple replied, tell us your dream, and we'll interpret it for you. She told him the dream about the ceiling beam in her house breaking, and the disciples interpreted it. Its meaning that she was destined to bury her husband. Upon hearing such distressed news, the woman left the Beit Midrash sobbing. When Rabbi Eliezer arrived, he asked the disciples why the woman outside was crying. They told him what had happened. During the absence, the Rabbi Eliezer was horrified. He told them, you have murdered her husband with your words. Does not the Pasuk say clearly that it was just as he interpreted for us, indeed it happened? Meaning, your words impact reality. The people you surround yourself with, if they're negative people, stay away from them. Okay? You want to stay away from negative people. Surround yourself with positive people, positive thinking people. You don't want to be around negative things. They're dangerous. Those are dangerous things to be around. The Gemara and Brachot. There were 24 interpretations of dreams in Jerusalem. 24 interpreters of dreams in Jerusalem. Once a certain person dreamt a dream, and he went around to all of them, interpretations, each one was fulfilled for him. In fulfillment of which it was stated, the dreams follow the mouth. Meaning, anyone who says something positive, that's how it goes. A covenant is decreed upon one's lips. Gemara number 17 says a person should never allow derogatory words to escape his lips. Control what comes out of your mouth. a reason why the mouth has more fences than anything else. My eyes, I only have eyelids. My ears, I have my earlobes. But your mouth, you got your teeth and you got your lips. Keep it shut. Okay? The pasuk, the verse in Genesis, Rachel, meanwhile, has taken the idols and placed them in the camel's cushion and sat on them. And Laban rummaged throughout the tent to find them. What happened over there? We know that later on, Yaakov cursed the person that took the idols from Laban. And what ended up happening? His own words were responsible for Rachel's early death. If Yaakov would have subscribed to this philosophy of never, ever allowing negative words to come out of his mouth, the woman that he loved so much, maybe she would not have died. The Sefer HaZohar in Bereshit says, there's no speech that issues from a person's mouth that does not have a voice. The voice derives from high, and many angels of destruction can attach themselves to it. As a matter of fact, there's a famous book called Raziel HaMalach. There's a Kabbalistic book that has all the names of all the Malachim. Now, the custom is, this is actually halacha, you're not supposed to say the name of an angel that is not described in the Tanakh. Because every time you say the name of an angel, you're actually summoning it, calling it. You say the name, you actually call that being in front of you. Now, whether you're aware of it or not, your words matter. Right? You ever hear the words abracadabra? Right? It's Aramaic. Avare ke'adaber. I will create as I speak. Right? Magic is very much an expression of words. Words matter. That's what the Zohar is saying over here. Number 20, a person should never open his mouth to the Satan. Al tiftach peh le-Satan, we say. Don't open the mouth. Don't create negative possibilities where the Satan can say, Amen. You know, Friday night, they say we sing Shalom Aleichem. Right? If you actually read the words of the song, we're actually greeting the angels that come to our house. So the Gemara asks, which angels are coming to your house? We don't have their names, but we know one is positive and one is negative. Right? You've heard this before. The positive angel comes to the house and he sees negative things happening in the house. Right? He says all kinds of things. The negative angel comes to the house and he sees negative things happening in the house. He says, Amen, brother. Let the good times roll. Right? Every week, on Friday night, there's a judgment happening in our homes. Right? We sing them, we're reminding ourselves of the fact that we need to bring shalom, harmony into our homes. Right? It's on us. The angels are always there. But they come specifically on Shabbat to double check and check in on see what we're doing. Okay. Shem Shmuel says as follows, there are 4 elements of the universe, earth, wind, fire, and water. In Kabbalistic approach, earth is the element represents the attribute of asiyah, of action. Despite the fact that the earth represents action, it cannot take action on its own. The first letters of the other elements, Esh, Maim, Ruach, right, fire, water, and wind, from the word Amar, to say. How cool is that? Speaking activates the elements, enabling them to be useful in this world. When a person opens his mouth to say something, he exhales his breath, which is warm, to express the words. This is the element of fire. In his mouth, it's moisture from the saliva, which expels along with the breath that he speaks. This is the element of water. The exhaling that he does is pronounced the words of the element of wind. These 3 elements comprise a person's speech, which is why the 3 represents attributes of action. Asiyah, action, is all tethered to speech. Your words impact reality. Do not let the blessing of even a simple person be trivial in your eyes. Okay, that's Gemara Megillah. Anything that is spoken matters. Mishlei, Shlomo Melech says, number 23, Amavet v'chaim, death and life, bayad lashon, is in the hand of the tongue. V'ovea yochel piriyah, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Everything is in the power of speech. It's all coming from there. Last source, number 24, Shimon ben Omer. Simon, his son, used to say, all my days I grew up among the sages, and I have found nothing better for a person than silence, shtika. Study is not the most important thing, but actions. Whoever indulges in it too, many words bring about sin. Thinking about words matter. How you use your words matter. If you're not proactively working on building a positive lexicon of speech, you are doomed to live in a world of unfortunate unhappiness and sadness. But I don't want to live in that world. I choose to live in a world of happiness, a world of positivity, a world of hope. My blessing to each of you is that you recognize the power of your words, that you use those words to recreate a world of simcha, of bracha for yourselves and for the world around you. Have an amazing week. Bezrat Hashem will continue next week.